It's been 1 year since US President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un met here in Singapore. The summit was the first ever meeting between a sitting US and North Korean leader. But despite the diplomacy, talks have since broken down, and Pyongyang has resumed short-range missile testing. Our US correspondent Harry Horton looks at what the US views as the successes and failures of the Singapore summit and where North Korean diplomacy goes from here.
After decades of failed attempts to rein in North Korea's nuclear program, President Trump traveled to Singapore to try a new approach, one-on-one diplomacy with Kim Jong Un. A day of talks produced a two-page document thick with superlatives but thin on detail.
The lack of really good preparation and working level negotiations before the summit, I think, really undermined the whole process. And a year later, we still have a stalemate with North Korea. North Korea still has all of its nuclear and ballistic weapons.
After the summit, it emerged President Trump had agreed to suspend joint military drills with South Korean troops, something that caught defense chiefs back in Washington off guard.
That's been the gift that keeps on giving for North Korea. We've canceled at least 11 exercises. We've put constraints on additional exercises. And it wasn't part of diplomacy. We didn't get anything in return. North Korea has not moderated its own military exercises.
He wrote me beautiful letters, and they're great letters. We fell in love.
Later came love letters and a second date in Hanoi. But the talks broke down without any agreement, and since then there's been no high-level contact between the US and North Korea. Broadly speaking, most Republicans and Democrats have been supportive of President Trump's efforts to engage in diplomacy with Kim Jong Un. Now that those talks have stalled, the feeling here in Washington is that the ball is firmly in North Korea's court.
I think there's a lot to criticize the Trump administration for, both the Singapore and the Hanoi summits, but it did put to rest that hypothesis. We've seen that Kim Jong Un is no more willing to denuclearize than his father and his grandfather. But you know, for all the criticism of the Trump administration, really the biggest impediment to progress on a diplomatic resolution is North Korea.
With short-range missile tests and provocative statements, North Korea appears to be trying to pressure the US to ease off on its demands. For now, a third summit appears a long way off.
President Moon has been trying to broker and to try to get things back on track, but I think President Moon is also constrained by the fact that the U.S. is not budging on removing sanctions, and that affects the way or the influence that President Moon has on Kim.
President Trump faces a tough re-election fight next year. With North Korean diplomacy so focused on personality, it's not clear how Kim would react to a new U.S. leader.
North Korea has already condemned the former Vice President Joe Biden. What I worry about is North Korea seeing a new president come in, doing a nuclear test or doing an ICBM test to show that Kim is going to be driving events on the Korean Peninsula and that he's not going to be cowed by a new leader in Washington.
Getting a good picture of everybody so we look nice and handsome and thin.
Donald Trump and Kim Jong Un have come a long way since the fire and fury of 2017. But in the year since their first meeting, they've made little progress towards even agreeing on a definition for denuclearization. Harry Horton, CNA, Washington.